got killed, I converted over to a NUC, Intel NUC for the.
Oh, right, as your computer for your control.
Yes, and
there you have it. You see what you guys missed?
See, and we are live, aren't we, Jan? We're live.
We are absolutely. Well, we've been live for a long time. I don't know how many years you've been live, but I've been live for 70 of them, or almost 70 of them. So it's good to be here, everybody. And welcome to the SoundBroker Mastermind RoundTable, where we discuss everything that's anything that has to do with our industry: sound, light, staging, video, concert, install, whatever you have. In a very friendly and upbeat manner. We give you a lot of news, and just remember one thing. This is the one thing that I got to remember. You make it happen. So make it happen by validating whatever you hear. Don't take our word for it, because this is an opinion show. So who knows? And you know what they say, you know what opinions are like. I'm not going to tell you. If you don't know, DM me later and I'll explain it to you.
Let's just say everybody has them. Right?
Everybody has an opinion. That's right. And in this show, we've got plenty of them. So with that in mind, I want to welcome everybody. Just remember, think about this. If you're on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter now, you could come into the room. All you got to do is sign up with Zoom, and you are in, and you could be part of the panel, because everybody has something to say, and we encourage your opinion. Okay. So with that in mind, I hope everybody's doing well. Kenny, did I forget anything in the opening?
No.
Oh, well, somebody's taking a hot tub on our time. Really, that's it.
That's
on your time, Dan. It's on you.
On my time, baby. On my time. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a celebrity in the room. SpongeBob. That's okay. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's doing well. Okay. And we're going to what we're going to do right now is we're going to put on, if I could figure out how to do this, we are going to enable the waiting room. So those people who are co-hosts, remember that the waiting room is locked. So you have to let these people in. We've hit success, by the way, in this group, because we've been Zoom bombed now two weeks in a row. And I'm very excited about that fact, that there are actually people that think we are worth Zoom bombing.
You hit the big time. When you get Zoom bombed, that's equivalent to hitting the big time, right?
That's it. There's a lot to discuss. We got to discuss government stuff. We've got to discuss openings. We got to discuss COVID. But before we get into discussing anything, let's just go around the room. How's everybody doing? Anybody want to say anything? Anybody's got a burning situation that they want to share right now?
Just went for a very relaxing swim. I'm in my condo hot tub right now, enjoying it. And
there you go. And that, Paul, has everything to do with what this show is about. Talking about your hot tub experience. Tell me, I just got to know though, what is the water temperature like in that hot tub?
I'm going to find out, because there happens to be.
All right. You report back. Our reporter in Austin, ladies and gentlemen, in the hot tub.
Right, here we go.
Okay.
Can you read that?
There you go. Very, very nice. So things are exciting.
I don't think it's quite focusing, Paul.
No, we can't see that.
Paul, we're going to have to hold this off to the end. You know, this is like a teaser. Tune in a little while. Stay tuned, and we will bring you the report on the temperature of Paul Wallace's, or Wale, or Wali. Wow. Because he's now changed his name, because he met a relative in Norway that has told him his name is pronounced a different way. But in the meantime, so let's start by saying hello, everybody. And I guess we could get right into it. The first scene, and nobody has anything that they want to say? Nobody? Going once?
Get vaccinated, okay? Everybody get vaccinated. Anybody here not been vaccinated yet? Go for it.
Okay.
Well,
speaking of vaccination, maybe Eric could talk to us something about this, because I've just been hearing a lot about Vax for Life and the Global Citizen Initiative, where Selena Gomez and Jennifer Lopez is going to be heading a Live Nations event to get people vaccinated. Anybody hear anything about that? Anybody want to talk about that?
Is that the one that Michael Strickland sent us a letter about? I mean, he had attached a letter. I didn't read it yet, but what's that letter say?
Basically, it says that the promoters want to get people vaccinated so that we could come back to normal, because we feel that until we get vaccinated, we won't be back to normal. So we've got to get to what I guess a herd immunity level where we can all go and come back and do the things that we want to do. It's pretty amazing right now how things are transgressing. I think now it's something like 75% of everybody over 65 has been vaccinated. Is that true?
That's what I heard. A lot of
Sounds about
older
right. Yeah.
people. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, there you have it. So
I heard that at least one cruise line is only admitting vaccinated people onto their cruises.
It's a big deal down here.
Yeah, it seems like it seems like that some states like New York has the Excelsior Pass, where you have to be vaccinated to get into a venue. I don't believe that that's going to happen here in Las Vegas. And of course, we are one of the entertainment centers of the world. Mike Brown, what do you know about that?
There's not much of a push to do it here. And actually, let me do an aside real quick. Charles, you need to turn your microphone way up. I know you were trying to say something a minute ago, but it was.
Okay. How's that?
That's about half of where it should be.
Oh, really?
Another 10 dB at least.
Yep.
Well, I don't
But
think
here in
that-
Nevada, the problem that there's
Okay.
not a huge appetite for the vaccine passport. I mean, there sort of is. Like, they recognize the value of it, and they think it's a great idea. And of course, anybody who's in hospitality, which includes entertainment is a form of hospitality, right? Is looking for a way to make their guests feel comfortable and therefore more likely to come to an event and buy a ticket and buy food and buy swag and buy, merch and all that jazz, right? But the challenge is we have so many travelers from so many other places. If there isn't a universal passport, and to some degree at this point, just domestic is what matters, but at some point it'd be international as well. If there isn't some sort of universal vaccine passport, it's going to be pretty useless. It's sort of like what happened with driver's licenses in the 80s and into the 90s. Finally, all the states got together. There's a standard way that driver's licenses are put together now. Most of them have the dot kind of barcode thing on the back, so it can be scanned. There's books so that if you're in, gaming or you sell liquor, you run a bar, whatever, you know what every state's ID is supposed to look like. It's kind of like that, but we're not going to get there. It's unlikely there will ever be a universal vaccine passport that would then make things easy at the receiving end of it, right? So
what do you suppose is going to happen in terms of the proof that you have been vaccinated?
my best guess, not a whole lot.
Because I hear that people are forging the, those cards that we have.
Exactly, because
They're-
everybody posted pictures of them on Twitter and
Yeah,
Facebook.
with their birthdays and
Yeah,
everything. It's so great.
So everybody can forge it. And of course, you have no way of calling somewhere to verify it because by law, even if there was somewhere to call, they can't verify or not verify that, so so it's, I think at the end there's, I think basically that's sort of why we're opening slowly. Most states are, staging it and doing it in a structured way because there is no for sure way to do it. Even the private industry that was saying, hey, bring your card and show us your card and then you can come to this concert or this event and otherwise you can't. Now they realize that that's pointless because it's just anybody with Photoshop and a printer can do it.
Yeah, it's a lost cause. Totally a lost cause.
Well, the thing is that even if they wouldn't have put out pictures, I mean, there's so many people that would have gotten it anyway. If somebody would, it's like movies, in the old days, somebody would go in with a movie camera and shoot what was going on the screen and they would get it out. Now, I'm not saying that the movies and COVID card are the same, but if people wanted to get it, they would figure out how to get it.
In my mind, the only way this ever could have happened now is if the contact tracing app had been mandatory last year. And then it would have evolved into proof of vaccination. And that's what has happened in some countries, primarily in Asia, where last year you just woke up and there's a new app on your phone and there's nothing you can do about it. It's part of the OS. and it was a contact tracing app, those apps are now morphing into vaccination records, right? But unfortunately here, I think that ship has sailed and there's not much we can do about it.
Yeah. Well, that's true. And like here in Vegas now, all the casinos are now actively vaccinating their employees, making it really easy for them to vaccinate their employees. And I just heard, Mike, and maybe you could share this with everybody if it's correct, that Las Vegas is opening 100% June 1st.
So that's the goal. And that's the directive from the governor to all of the counties, because on May 1st, everything except the mask mandate falls away from the state and goes to local jurisdictions. So on May 1st, it'll be Clark County, because here we have county-based boards of health. So it'll go to Clark County and Nye County and Lincoln County. All the counties will now be responsible. The one thing that there's two things that at the county level that they'll no longer be responsible for. Number one is masks. That's still a state mandate for the foreseeable future. There is no end date on that. And we'll be requiring masks at Cavlo. We've said that all along, and that hasn't changed. And the local jurisdictions will still not have authority over gaming establishments. So if you're a casino, or even if you are what we call a tavern, which is your local neighborhood bar that happens to have video poker machines, if you're from a tavern, a neighborhood tavern, all the way up to a casino, the Nevada Gaming Commission is still in charge there. But the governor's directive is twofold. The two big things that came out of yesterday's press conference. Number one, social distancing ends on May 1st, or at least the state requirement for it. The local jurisdiction certainly could keep it in place. And all counties are directed to submit a plan to the state that allows them to reopen to 100% capacity by June 1st. In the middle of his press, so clearly the local jurisdictions had notice, because in the middle of his press conference, all the big counties released their plan, so it was already done. And the Clark County one, which is the area that most people consider Vegas, is all within Clark County. It's a little involved, and there's all these different, it's one of those if and then if and then if and then kind of scenarios. So all sorts of metrics have to be met to go to 100%. But there's certainly a path now, and there's certainly a light at the end of the tunnel, and our vaccination efforts continue. I haven't checked since yesterday morning, but as of yesterday morning, Nevada was at 53% of its population was either in the vaccine protocol, meaning they had at least one shot, if not both, or the Johnson & Johnson like I got, or they've already had COVID. So theoretically speaking, 53% of Nevadans, as of yesterday morning, are now immune or significantly resistant to getting and therefore spreading COVID-19. So we're pretty excited. We're totally
all right. Very good. So
news.
Now who else wants to say something about that? What's Andrew Hope's coming in from Canada? What's going on up there in Canada? We've got a few of our friends from up north, Ron, Andrew. What's going on up there as regards to the vaccination?
Well, hey, Jen, great to see you. It's been too long, and hopefully we'll get to do it in person in Vegas soon.
That's right.
Canada's kind of been 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. Fundamentally, the challenge that we're experiencing is vaccine availability. We don't make any vaccine in Canada, so we're kind of like, poor people holding our hands out to our rich neighbors. And so far in Canada, in general terms, you're not getting a vaccine unless you're 55 or over. So just a week or 10 days ago, as myself, I'm 56, I'm allowed to get a vaccine now. That's part of the issue. And the other thing is, as opposed to what we see from some of our friends in the US, and we've expanded our business pretty significantly into the US market over the last few months, our governments tend to be pretty conservative, and people here tend to listen and cooperate. As a friend of mine once said, explaining to somebody else, you got to understand, he goes, in Canada, if we were going to have a protest against wearing masks, everyone would show up wearing a mask to the protest and keep 6 feet of distance because we're Canadian. But people are getting fed up. In the last week, we've had Ontario, which is 40% of the market, go into a 28-day emergency lockdown. Quebec here, where I am, we're Montreal based. We're living under a curfew now from 8 p.m. till 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning. Essential businesses only, that kind of thing. And, you know, there's two effects of this. There's the actual practical, tangible effect, and then there's the psychological effect. So, as I said, it's been kind of 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And the problem is every time we take 2 steps back, it takes longer for people to regain the confidence to start moving forward. So you look at all these guys, you know, their entertainment venues are shut down, their bars, lounges are shut down or whatever. They all had plans. They were all going to renovate this or add to that or do whatever. And, you know, all of a sudden, oh, the first shutdown. So it was, oh, okay, pull your horns in, sit at home. What's going to happen? Things get a little better. You're allowed to go out again a little bit. It all comes alive again. And then another shutdown. And every time it takes people longer to try and regain the confidence and imagine that we're going to, you know, get through it. The other real thing is the US border is essentially closed for us now, which makes it very, very difficult for companies like ourselves that do business cross-border. And as far as entertainment goes, if you look in other areas of the country, you look to the east, Atlantic Canada, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, that kind of stuff, they did a really good job early on of cutting themselves off from the rest of the country and going, no, we're the Atlantic people on the ocean. We have a bubble. No one's coming in. We're going to keep ourselves in good shape. And they've done a really good job of that. And things are starting to open up there a little bit more. But I was speaking to one of the principals of a production company this morning. And I said to him, I said, hey, things must be looking better for you. I think things are opening up. He goes, yeah, he goes, they are. But the problem is now, people can be willing to put on an event. The problem is no one can get insurance against cancellation because everything's so unpredictable.
Amen.
So
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, it's
I know that story.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a big issue for everybody. But
actually, it's a complete non-issue because it's not available.
Right, there you go.
So it's not an issue, so it's over. Thanks. And that was what my broker told me. Have a nice day.
Actually, I want, before we go any further, and I don't want to interrupt you, but I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it. I was going to interrupt you with a quote from Groucho Marx about everybody has, you know, plans. As a matter of fact, Groucho Marx bought a coat with 2 pair of plans. Anyway, but that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say that I am traveling. I'm getting ready to do some traveling because I've been vaccinated, and going into Thailand, I had to buy health insurance that covered me for COVID. So if I can buy COVID insurance while traveling, and the company is Northwestern, I believe that they would offer COVID insurance for everybody, except it's not cheap. Now go back to what you were saying, Andrew. I'm sorry for interrupting you, even though I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah. So overall, you know, the big picture beyond ourselves and our little thing we call a business, Canada's in pretty good shape. If you look at our death rates, you look at our infection rates, you look at the fact that hospitals have not actually been overwhelmed, all of that, we've got through it pretty well. But in the last week or two, since the last, tighten up the restrictions again, we saw a little bit of what I would call less than peaceful protest downtown in Montreal and stuff like that. So people here are getting fed up too.
Does that mean somebody raised their voice?
Well, actually, it was more than that. There was tear gas, there was armed police, all of that.
Really?
stuff.
In Canada?
In Canada, that's right. 2 or 3 nights ago in Montreal, protesting the rollback of the curfew.
Sounds like you're in Minneapolis.
I would have thought all Canadian tear gas would have expired from lack of use, 37 years ago.
You'd think so, but you're forgetting about hockey. We have to have quiet when Montreal either loses or wins the Stanley Cup, but that's just how it goes.
So I want to bring Ron in right now because Ron's on another side of your country. I believe Ron is out of Toronto, right? And what are you seeing over there? Are you seeing the same thing Andrew's seeing in the middle of the country? Because I guess you have different provinces there, right?
Yeah, no, I'm in Ontario. So, I mean, he's pretty much nailed it. I mean, we are behind with vaccinations. I've got so many things that sort of like last year, only it just kicks you in the groin again. And you got all these things penciled in and every day they're blowing them out. So yeah, people are just moving their stuff all around the calendar, trying to figure out what's going on, but really we have no idea. And so we've got some drive-in shows. that are booked. We start our first drive-in show the end of May. And then we've got probably 4 or 5 of them booked. But again, there's no money in drive-in shows. So we've got a few of that going on. We've pivoted to we built in a large stage in our warehouse indoor and lots of lights and 8 cameras. And so we've pivoted now, and we've been doing that for the last couple months and doing videos for different things and different programs and that kind of stuff. So just to kind of keep the lights on, and it's been good. Our government's been good. I'm not sure in Quebec how they've been, but really, because I get asked this all the time, our government's really picked up for us. We've gotten 2 grants. Our second one we haven't received yet, but they automatically entered us for the second one. So 20 grand each grant. So we got that. And the wage subsidy we still have. So 75% of all wages are covered, which at the end of the day, I went back and looked at the whole year, and that's a lot of money. Like, the government's really, really came up and helped us out. We wouldn't be open right now. So, I mean, it's really been, they've been good for us. As much as people in Canada like to bitch about their government, like every other country, they've really I feel they've really stepped up for my particular company anyway. And a lot of the guys that I know, they really stepped up and helped us out,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because down here in the United States, and I just want to point out, we're going to put a link in the chat. There's a guy named, I guess his name is Walter Kenzie. And this is in Polestar. I think this is in Polestar. Where is it? Is it in Polestar? Yeah, it's in Polestar. And the title of the article is COVID Wrecked Live Entertainment. Grants are here to help. Are you ready to apply? And it's a really good article. And it has a bunch of links in it covering SVOG, PPP, EIDL. I guess Walter Kinski is the founder and CEO of Encore Live. So it's a pretty interesting article. It's short and it gives you some good links. So I thought I would throw that up. Let's move down to Florida. What's going on there in Florida? Chris? Speaking of opening, I guess we're opening like crazy up there, right? We never closed in Florida.
Things are starting to open up here. We just lost a second season. It's the end of the season down here. And the snowbirds all went back up north last weekend, but most of them got stuck because of the storms coming through. So the airport was shut down. But we're the plan that the Miami Heat had for having separate sections for seating with vaccination cards has fallen apart because it was too difficult to control it at the point of sale, and also along the way. And they're also getting away from having the COVID sniffing dogs in the arena. So they're sort of caving into it and just, letting it open up. But they're going to remain social distance, 25% capacity in the arena. None of the cruise ships are coming back yet. We're looking at, I think it's Virgin is starting to cruise in April, but they're going to do it out of UK, and they're only doing it for UK passengers that have vaccination cards. So, right. If CDC lightens up, we might see some of that down here, but, the governor's pushing to open up everything, but the promoters are holding back because they, it's getting past the season already, and, nobody wants to take the chance. So it's coming along slowly, though. People are getting vaccinated. I think they've done a really good job at their massive vaccination centers, drive-throughs, getting it, just stay in your car, get your shot, keep going. I've been I'm fully vaccinated and found it pretty easy. So.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, this is Chaz. I don't know if I have enough gain on my mic. Do I?
I hear you perfect now. For an audio guy, you finally got it together. That's what I like.
Yeah.
Well, I'm using my USB pre, and it was set for my measurement mic. And anyway, long story short. So I see that our local shed up here in Palm Beach County has a whole potential schedule of concerts, but we're all sort of crossing our fingers, hoping that it's really going to happen. But there are quite a few events scheduled.
Did they say that they post how much how many people they're going to allow in?
You know, I didn't get into it. Maybe Elaine knows because she's a local 500 member. And she might have some information for us. But
Coral
they're
Sky's a good one to open up. It's got a lot of airspace. I mean,
yeah,
it's
they
big.
did the opera there.
Hi,
75%.
Elaine.
Hi.
Welcome to the group.
Thanks. 75%, they said in the article you sent me, Chess.
Okay.
Wow.
Now-
I'm surprised.
Now, because I'm the host of the show, I could deviate a little bit, but and if you stick around, you're going to hear a great story between Charles, Elaine, and myself, how
Uh-oh.
we first
Uh-oh.
met each other indirectly at Watkins Glen back in the early 40s, 1940.
Yeah, I met Chess at a Grateful Dead concert, doesn't everybody?
and I was at that show. And they heard my story. So you want to remember we do this feature about memorable experiences and highlights. They were there and they happened to know about one of my highlights. There's actually proof about this crazy cockamamie story that I have about my life that if you stick around towards the end, you'll hear about that as well. So anyway, so things are opening up a little bit in Florida, right?
Yeah, but they're not getting vaccinated. I know so many people that will refuse that they're not going to get it.
Yeah, it's just there's this whole anti-vax little community. It's just so weird.
Yeah, it's hard to convince people to that's the best thing to do. Florida's a big state. It's got quite a diverse population, and there's down here in Dade County, people are vaccinated. Broward County, fairly well vaccinated. You go to Jacksonville, I would like to see the numbers up there, but it's actually the largest city in our state. I would imagine they're pretty low, but I haven't seen the statistic.
Yeah, I want to focus in with Brian a little bit, Brian Scott, because the Johnson & Johnson thing, that the debacle with that, I'm sure Brian might have something that he wants to add, because, I mean, really, 1 in 7 million, I think that's the statistics, so 6 and 7 million people had some sort of side effect. One person died. And of course, that is one too many. However, it's still, the odds are in your favor that you're going to live. Brian, what do you want to say about that? And also what's going on in North Carolina?
I like the odds because I got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Same here.
But you're not a woman. You're not a woman between 18 and 40, buddy. Although you could pass.
But I just read an article today, and I forget which country is suffering the same thing with the AstraZeneca vaccine. So it's another country's different vaccine, different solution. So I just don't know, but statistically the odds, I mean, you have to assume some, right. You got to assume certain risk. And
I did the math, Brian, and you are 100. Some of this came from Mike Strickland. You're 173 times more likely to die from an adverse reaction to aspirin than the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Right.
In other words, just buy a Powerball on the same day. And if your luck's really going that way.
Yeah. You got 50-50 chance of being a millionaire or having an adverse reaction. But it's just, and what I was listening, when I listened to Dr. Fauci yesterday and his comments, it sounded like the real reason for the pause was simply to get information out to the clinicians and say, hey, here's what we've noticed in this infinitesimally small group of people. So be on the lookout for these symptoms from anyone who gets the J&J vaccine.
Yeah. And don't give them
if you listen to Tucker Carlson, they're not telling us what really is happening. Like they're telling us, what they're saying is 6 out of 6 million. It's actually 600,000 out of 6 million that are having blood clot. You know that, right? That's what Tucker Carlson said. So that's fact, right?
Well,
but to the other points of this too, and Mike, what I heard today too was it was also this particular type of blood clot has to be treated different than a normal blood clot. So it's getting the procedurals out to the emergency rooms, out to the doctor's offices, so that if you do show up.
So all the red wine I've been drinking for a week was pointless?
Well, no, it had other reasons, but
I mean, I enjoyed it. I don't mind. We're going to continue the trend tonight, but I was avoiding blood clots. That's what I'm telling everybody.
Well, that's just like my doctor told me to drink Guinness because that has all sorts of minerals in it. So,
yeah. So now in the UK, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but they've just come up with a home kit to test you and for COVID. And it looks just like a pregnancy test. I think the only difference is that you have to swab yourself rather than pee on it. But if you get confused, I think it'll work anyway.
And that works just about as well for proving that you don't have COVID as if you went to do your own drug test at the application office. You know, you're not, unless you got somebody administrating, it doesn't really have much value.
Yeah, well, I just think, I mean, I guess it would be just like a preliminary test. I mean, if you were like, just say pregnant, for example, and you know, it turned blue or pink or whatever the color, or the rabbit died, whatever it was that happened with when you took the test, then you would go to a doctor to validate it, right?
Sure.
The dog
One would think.
I'd rather have a COVID sniffing dog sniff my butt.
Well, hey, that's okay for you.
If you have that option, I would go for it.
Yeah, I mean, what's your address? We'll get that set up. What's a good time tomorrow?
I hear the dachshunds are really running rampant these days, so be careful. Oh no, it's beagles. The beagles are on the case over this. So what's going on down there up in New Jersey? We got Eric Tardo, a reporter from New Jersey, and I believe he has some information as well about some grants and EDIL and the SVOG. Is there anything that you want to share, Eric?
There isn't really anything exciting to report. Mike Strickland has done a really good job of circulating information, even though it seems that there's a pretty strong undercurrent of activity that's very slowly moving the needle, if you'll pardon the expression, with some of our elected representatives. It still is paramount to keep the old expression, keep those cards and letters coming. Emails to the SBA per the list that's available. Anybody that needs that information, I can send it to you. You can send it out. It's in all of Mike's recent documents. They need to get emails. They need to get letters. FedEx's work. Whatever you do to keep motivating them. If we slack off, they slack off. So I mean, in that regard, it's pretty simple. I'm sure many on here have seen the emails from the SBA about the increase in the EDIL limit from 150,000 to 500,000. I don't know if anybody's actually gotten one yet, but I did get the link and just clicked to say that I was interested. They don't really ask for any more information at that point. I mean, in terms of actual activity, Jones Beach, which is kind of the premier benchmark for outdoor venues for the New York area, is not going to open this season. I didn't hear it directly from Live Nation, but I heard it from someone else that I trust implicitly. And PNC Bank Arts Center, which is really the only significant amphitheater in New Jersey, is also not opening. So that's a pretty strong statement that this summer is going to be pretty weak, at least in this area.
Well, Eric, let me ask you something. What do you know about the National Independent Talent Organization and the NITO Live thing, which we'll also put a link into the show? Do you know anything about that, or should I just BS everybody about it?
Go ahead and why change the habits of a lifetime? Keep BSing. I just saw it announced yesterday, so I didn't really learn anything about it other than it looks like a great show.
Okay, so basically what these guys are doing, and if you go to their website, you will see that they have all the tools. Basically, when you go there, you have a choice. You go to their home. Actually, if you don't want to buy their merchandise, you have the choice of COVID relief. And it really is a powerhouse of information. It talks about the shuttered venue grant applications, the pandemic unemployment assistance, that's PUA, and the payroll protection plan. So that is, if you go up to that link, you'll get a lot of information. And then basically, they also have all the information on how to reach your local SBA office. And they got a lot of resources regarding congressional outreach, how you could take action. They have a news and a press thing. So if you haven't been up to the National Independent Talent Organization website, it's NITO, NITO, like how neat is that? With live.org. And so that has been a paid political announcement, by the way, even though I didn't get paid, nor is it political. So Ken Porter, talk to me. What's going on down in the Nashville part of the world?
Well, it's been busy. I have a question for the Canadians. Have they approved treatments for COVID up there in Canada, where US you cannot use chloroquine or any of the stuff like that because it inhibits the CDC from fast tracking the vaccines. So that's why there's no COVID, treatments going on. Can they do treatments in Canada on COVID?
Hey, Ken, absolutely. In Canada, as you've probably heard, we actually have public health care, and control of that is in the hands of the physicians. So it's up to your physician as to whatever his best judgment is to look after you. We've been seeing obviously there's evolution in the approach to treatment and all of that kind of thing, but we don't have any of that stuff going on up here. If you've got a problem here, once people talk about how bad, depending on where your point of view is on that overall public health care thing, everyone has an opinion. But the reality of it is, despite what some of my American friends may have heard, we don't actually leave old people to die in the street or any of that kind of stuff. The reality is doctors are still in control up here.
Now, what you do, I heard that you send those old people down to Brazil for them to die in the streets of Brazil. I think, isn't that what you guys do up there? No,
I don't know. I haven't been down that path myself.
See, that's why. So be careful. Be very, very careful when you.
But no, we don't have this same kind of discussion in the media, controversy about a specific treatment, any of that kind of stuff. It's in the hands of the guys that are supposed to know, our doctors. And
no, the thing about the Canadian system, which I really think is a good system, is it's all about wellness, and they keep you well, and the doctors don't get rewarded for running 1 million tests on you, not necessarily needed, or for that matter, performing unnecessary procedures on you. So basically it's more about, you could go there and say, hey, doc, I want to stay healthy. What could you do to keep me healthy? Is that right?
The main issue with the healthcare system here is, well, one of the problems is, if you're a young doctor and you go to work in Canada, then as a young doctor in Canada, your earning potential is going to be something like $1.50, 200K Canadian, something like that. That same young doctor can go south of the border and be into 400K US in the private system. So we do have a certain amount of trouble sometimes keeping young professionals here. And even if the system's overloaded or whatever, once you're in the system, once you've showed up and said, I need help, then you'll get first-class help. They don't care how old you are, what color you are, what sex you are, anything else. It just happens. And my dad, before he retired, was a specialist physician all his life. And I had a friend, I was in New York at a trade show years ago, Jan, drinking with some Australians, which is always a big mistake. And one of the Australian guys ended up, I don't know if it was self-inflicted totally, or the memories are blurry, but he ended up with a broken arm and some other stuff going on. And the first question he was asked was, do you have private health insurance in the US? No. Do you have a credit card? In Canada, we treat everybody, regardless of who you are, how you came in the door, and all of that. And it's actually our doctors who take the loss on someone who's not in our system, because what my dad used to tell me is 7 or 8 times out of 10, they don't get paid because they're in Canada. It's just a different system. But the
it's definitely different. In Canada, if a joke starts by, hey, a guy gets a call from his doctor, you know that it's a joke, because the guy's not getting a call from his doctor, so it's a joke here. Of course, to follow up on that joke.
Insurance cheaper in Canada, though?
I'm sorry?
liability insurance, isn't it?
What type of
cheaper
liability? What type of liability insurance, Elaine?
as a doctor?
Oh, I don't know what it costs in the U.S. I'm sure it's a lot higher in the U.S. just because of the tendency to get lawsuits going and everything else. But
Yeah,
I can give you an
That
example.
200,000 difference might go down quite a bit.
Yeah, but,
Yeah, no, exactly.
At the end of the day, you know, without going down the rabbit hole on this, I mean, it depends what specialty you're in. The two highest risk specialties are considered to be anesthesiology and you know, the guys who bring the babies into the world. What are they called? I can't remember. Anyway, gynecologists, obstetrician gynecologists. And the last number I heard, again, referring back to my father, he's been retired for almost 10 years, but he was paying $40,000 or $50,000 a year in malpractice insurance.
See, but here, one of the challenges here in the U.S. you'll find is that in some states you can't even get certain specialties insured. It's just not available, and there's no limits on lawsuits either. So Jan and I have a good friend who has a heart condition, and he cannot get treatment in the state of Nevada. He has to go to a different state, and when he has an emergency, all they can do here in Nevada is maintain long enough to get him on a chopper to get him to where he needs to go, to where the specialist is.
So this is the other part. Our legal system here is designed to discourage what is termed as being frivolous or nuisance or outrageous or any of that. I mean,
is Canada loser pays?
In many situations, yes.
Okay.
In many situations, yes. But the reality of it is, you know, a Canadian court has never awarded anyone $10 million because they burnt themselves with coffee. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reality level here, and how that's I'm not familiar with how that's legislated or regulated or any of the other stuff, but a Canadian judge on the surface of it will throw stuff like that out. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, but I heard I heard that if you're a single person and you live with someone for 6 months, then they're entitled to half. So how is that?
Yeah. 2 years.
Oh, 2 years. They've raised the limit. Now
You're
I can move to Canada.
You're considered to be common law married after 2 years of cohabitation at the same address.
But that's not unusual, Jan, and I don't know if it's still true, but when I lived in Texas, it was 6 months in Texas. Two people residing at the same address, getting mail at the same address, 6 months, common law married.
At least in Texas, it probably had to be a boy or a girl.
Most likely.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Here, you know, we have pronouns for everything, you know. Hey, so did anybody try to apply for the SBA loans, or, you know, because of what I understand is that they couldn't, the system broke down. Did anybody try to apply at that particular time?
You're talking about the SVOG, right? SVOG.
Yeah,
loans,
yeah. They did a staggered application process. The first 14 days will only be for firms that have suffered 90% reduction in income, and then the second 14 days for 70%, and third for 25% or more. But then the system broke down and they couldn't get anybody. Did anybody try to apply during this period of time? Did that affect anybody in the room? It's times like this that I wish I wore a watch, but I wasn't wearing a watch.
Crickets.
Crickets. Somebody will pay for this. Anyway, I got some really good news though, guys. Speaking about money, and if you've been following the escapades of Bank of America and Jan Landy with the PPP loan, you would know that it has been a nightmare for me since September 16th of last year. Well, today that nightmare ended. Today I got loan forgiveness. And now on to the next step with Bank of America.
Oh, wait, today you got loan forgiveness for the loan you never got?
For the loan I never got, but they gave it back to me. So they gave me the money. They said I never got the loan. The guy at the loan forgiveness department got me back the money. And today he got me the loan forgiveness. So, hey, what can I say? Sometimes good things happen to good people.
So lunch is on you Friday? Is that what I heard?
Buy a lottery
No, it's your
ticket.
turn. It's your turn.
So B of A doesn't suck, or does B of A still suck?
Oh, B of A really sucks. They also, and remember, this is my opinion. I have no idea what they're like in bed, but I'm just assuming that they suck. That's it. That's what I'm assuming. So anyway, there's also some other good news going on. So Polestar is having their live event on June 15th to June 17th at the Beverly Hilton Hotel in California. And of course, Polestar represents the agents. It's their organization and news information for talent agents, managers, promoters, that aspect. So if they're all going to be meeting in Beverly Hills, wouldn't we all think that that's a positive sign?
Are they actually like getting together in a normal meeting style, or are they zooming in each
Beverly
of their own
Hilton
hotel
Hotel.
rooms?
At the Beverly Hilton Hotel.
What's the date?
The date is June? June. I just Tina would have
You
to help
said
me.
15th and 16th, I think you just said, right?
Yep, I did.
Right, because June 15th is the date that California goes to 100%.
Predicted. Yeah, right. We're hoping.
Oh yeah, trust me.
Oh,
there's
15
no-
to 17 is
listen.
Beverly Hilton. Yeah.
Gavin Newsom may come off as the most charming man in the world, but he's still a politician, and there's an election coming. It's June 15th. I cannot even imagine the kind of catastrophic horror
Backlash
that would have to happen for him to back off of that. It's June the 15th. Trust me.
Yeah, but I just read that the Hollywood Bowl and the Ford Theater announces their comeback. So they're opening up. David Dansky, you're right there. Yeah. Are you hearing anything in Hollywood? What's going on with the Hollywood Bowl? Any
they're doing a few concerts with limited audience. They're doing a few concerts with limited audience in May. And that limited audience, I believe, is going to consist of healthcare workers and first line respondents and so forth. And then they're hoping to go to full capacity later in the season.
Yeah, there's a link in the chat that we throw in. David, tell me something about what, because you're right there. You're the man on the scene right there in Hollywood.
Well, the bowl is starting up, initially, remember 17,000 people can go in there. So even with COVID, it's thousands of people can go to a show. So, and it's outdoors on top of that. So, it's safer in those terms as well. So that's positive. We'll see what happens on June 15th.
It's not Charo though.
Now, what's going on with Charo? I mean, for I know everybody in this room and everybody listening on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook is very interested in Charo's career. So tell us, what's happening with Charo? Is she in rehearsals?
First of all, let me say that for those who only think of Charo as a coochie lightweight, she's an amazing classical guitarist. She's an award-winning classical guitarist. So she's a funny, entertaining star who's got a benefit show happening in Vegas on May 1st. And then starting in mid-June, it looks like she's going to have a residency in Vegas as well. So no rehearsals yet, but they did audition dancers a couple of days ago. And we'll see. I might actually have steady work.
Yeah, that made the local paper, the auditions.
Oh, really? Well, I guess it's news. They're interviewing dancers, so we'll see.
And just a little aside, just another one of my memory experiences. A few years ago, probably more than a few now, but David Dansky was working with Charo as their engineer, and they were doing a cruise, and someone dropped out of the cruise. And David said, "Hey, I have a friend. Could I bring him along on the cruise?" And they took me on the cruise. Charo put me on her work list, and there I was on a cruise with Charo.
I have to say, for a while, the cruise industry has changed, but for a while, I was doing anywhere from 5 to a dozen one-week cruises with Charo all around the world. And I could bring a friend. As long as they could physically get to the boat would pay for the meals and pay for the room. And well, they shared a room with me, but so
no, I didn't share a room with you. They gave me my own suite.
Oh, that's good. Oh yeah, that's right. Somebody dropped out, so you had your own room. Anyway, for a long time, I just had the life of Riley. I mean, how can you complain about getting on a ship, having full access to the crew areas, but yet being a full passenger with all the rights and free drinks? And it was really a good era to be on. It's no longer there. They don't pay for it anymore. But
it was also before the cruise lines became a petri dish for disease as well. Right. So in those days, it was good. Although they always were.
They always were. They just threw the sick people overboard. That's all.
Right. Well, the norovirus has been on cruise ships forever, but it's pretty rare. I've done 150 cruises, and I had one cruise that it affected us, and they actually had to put the ship in quarantine and clean it out. And so we didn't get on the ship for an extra 2 days later, which changed the whole schedule and everything. But other than that, I haven't been around the norovirus. So they may be Petri dishes, but they're really good if it's not a pandemic of keeping the passengers and the ships pretty clean. So we'll see what happens in the future.
I just want to give props to Dave Dansky for the mixing he did when he mixed War many, many years ago. I'll never forget and I was an up and coming engineer, and so was he. You remember doing Eric Burden and War?
Yeah, well, I remember. Well, was it a Mandrel show that War was already on?
Yeah, it might have been.
I think that's what it was. That may be where we even met.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, the beautiful thing, Chaz, is
awesome.
is that David Dansky has a record of every show he has ever done. And so all he has to do is look at his spreadsheet, and he will tell you the exact date and time that he did that show. So,
and where I stayed.
And gear list.
So we're talking about boats or ships or whatever, and they happen to be on the water, which brings me up to Roger Waters, and he pushed his arena dates back to the summer of 2022. Just an FYI. See how I threw that in? So now going back to Dade, Miami-Dade, Florida, where Chris is in the room, I heard that the Vibra Ubana Festival has announced the return for 2021. And normally, I guess it's July 31st. Do you know anything about that? It's going to be outdoors rather than it's going to be at the Miami-Dade County Fair and Expo Center, but they just announced those dates. Chris, do you know anything about that?
No, I've heard we've had some events out on Virginia Key out here, but I haven't heard about this one in particular.
All right, well, it's still a news story. Whether you heard it or not, you've heard it here first. There you go. Does anybody know who Julian Baker is? Because he announced his fall North American spring tour of 2022, and he's going to be doing European dates, which start in September. Eric Church to gather again in the round for a full U.S. tour kicking off on September 17th. Andrew Bocelli, he announced his date for North America. He's going to be starting to perform in October of this year. And so those are the jobs that I know about. Does anybody know about any other jobs or anything that they want to talk about right now?
I know Bonnaroo announced their dates. I forget what they are. It's a little bit later in the year, but Bonnaroo's back, 3-day festival, full lineup.
That's Northern California, right? Or are you talking about Bonnaroo, or is it in Nashville?
Yeah, the Tennessee one.
Manchester.
Oh, okay.
Presently up in Montreal, Osheaga is scheduled this year for the 30th, 31st of July. I don't know if you guys probably heard of Osheaga. It's a pretty big outdoor multi-stage thing. And currently they're holding to it, and they're saying it's going to happen. And the big up in the air for us this summer is whether or not we're going to get the Formula One race again, and if so, when. But they're holding firm still on Osheaga in July, and that's a big event up here.
All the artists Carnival, the EDC is coming back to Vegas May 22nd. All whatever 300,000 people or whatever, they're going to pack them in.
Is the Speedway in the county of
Yes.
Okay.
It is in Clark County. And the interesting thing is there's a convention that happens every year here in June called World of Concrete. If you're in construction or deal with concrete, or you sell concrete gear or whatever the case may be, that's your trade show. And that's about 65,000 people. And the county has already said that show is going on, period. They have no plans to restrict it in any way. Of course, everybody will have to wear masks, because at that point, the mask is still a state mandate. But other than that, apparently that show's happening. So the suspicion around here is that come May 1st, Clark County is just going to say, wear a mask, and if you're scared, stay home.
And I don't think anybody's going to be scared. And I'll tell you one other thing that I just read. I think, and this is something along the lines where I think that this is going to be big, and it's going to be big for a lot of different reasons. But Live Nations just announced that in their 60 of their venues, once they start opening up, they're going to do live streaming. So basically what's going to happen, they're going to put their bands in, and one of the theaters is the Wilton Theater, that they're going to be doing it with the Wilton Theater. And basically they're going to be putting their bands in. You can go out and see the band play, but if you can't make it for $15, you will be able to stream that show onto your television. And so that, I see, is going to be a change in the way concerts are just marketed and taking place. Do you guys think that that's going to hurt attendance at all?
I don't think so. There's a company here in town that was founded by a couple of friends of mine called StreamSeat. StreamSeat.io is their website. And they are specifically gearing up to do exactly what you just spoke of, Jan, but for the smaller venues, the local bars and concert venues, the 100-seaters, 200-seaters, 250, along those lines, who don't have a Live Nation, budget and technical wherewithal behind them. And StreamSeat will take care of all of that and stream it. And I think what ends up happening now is if you're you're a Taylor Swift fan and she goes on tour, and sure, you're going to see her when she comes to your town, and maybe you'll fly to where your parents live when she's in your parents' town to catch that show. But in the meantime, you're going to pay that $15 to Live Nation or whomever, so you can see the show in Denver and the show in Detroit and the show in Miami and the show in Toronto. Because $15, let's face it, that's not even movie money at this point.
Mm-hmm. Now, so I'd like to bring Chris Prozio into the conversation right now, because are you seeing that affecting your business, Chris? Because you're basically working with AR and virtual reality in the way people present events for streaming.
Wait for it.
Me to get my watch.
He's working on getting them mute. He's working on getting them mute.
Wait a second.
He's working on it.
Zoom
there he is. Okay.
Zoom
Wait, here's a watch.
Coming tomorrow.
Let me see here. Let's see. What time is it? That's it. Okay.
Wait, you were
There we go.
unmuted now. There
No,
you
I'm
go.
I'm having computer issues. The audio goes and dropping out and everything else. So if I do the max headroom thing, it's my computer. But yeah, no, absolutely. We're seeing that in our world. And what you're talking about, the streaming to a remote audience and utilizing the AR effects, is definitely going to happen. We were doing it prior to COVID. Bands like BTS were out there doing some shows utilizing AR elements for the screens inside the arena, as well as for people doing some remote with their phones. But it's just going to become more and more prevalent. It's just the way it works. The audience members, the younger audience members, are used to seeing everything through a frame, and they're going to cater to that.
And I don't think, any of those live stream things are going to, take away from people wanting to go see the show. I think at this point, they've been locked up at home for so long. Every event that I've seen anywhere, talking to people globally, the minute it's announced, it's sold out. It's just like that.
No,
People are so desperate to get
it's just going to augment the audience. I mean, honestly, there's only a few acts that I'm going to go out in the world and deal with. It's not even COVID. Quite honestly, in my old age, I don't want to have to deal with lines at the restroom and $25 beers. So if there's an act that I'm interested in seeing, but I'm not willing to deal with all of that, I'll stream it for 15, 20. I'll stream it for $50 and watch the act on my 75-inch television in my living room.
There you go. And for most events, I think that translates into an increase in revenue as opposed to interfering with.
Yeah, I don't think it doesn't impact anything. And I think if you look at, I did a very unofficial survey on LinkedIn last year about this very thing. And I said, would you be willing to pay, or actually I said, how much would you be willing to pay to see an A-list artist in the comfort of your home with a super high res image, super good audio, and if it included some kind of, swag package, like you buy the pay-per-view and then they send you a couple of t-shirts or whatever on top of it. And the most popular price was 75. And a few people said they would have paid 100 for it. And so now you start thinking about that and you go, okay, well, let's put that together. Maybe I can offer in a restaurant deal or a DoorDash or Uber Eats deal also, and they can order some beer and wings and, whatever.
A pizza, Domino's will deliver.
Exactly. Now it's a thing. Now it's an event. And then I call my buddies over to watch it with me, and we split it just like we do with boxing matches or MMA matches or whatever. So even if it's 100, 150 bucks, if it's a prime ticket, I don't care because my buddies are each going to chip in 20, 30 bucks and we're all going to have a good time.
I wonder if there's a marketplace where people could come in and set up your home with a better stereo and TV system for you for that kind of event. I wonder if that will become a marketplace.
Experience. So now you'll have all these AR elements around the artist. So it's a different experience. So to your point about Taylor Swift, maybe you see her live at your hometown and maybe you want to see a different experience. So you'll stream it when she goes to the next town. The possibilities are endless. What I see coming out of COVID is it's just changing the dynamic of how we do events. What we thought was tried and true, this is the way it has to be done. The last year and a few months has proven that we could do it some other ways and it'll work.
Yeah, and think about something like Glastonbury, right? So I know some of you will look derisively at me now, but retired nightclub DJ here. And which means, yes, I know it means I have no talent. I can't keep time. I wanted to be a musician, but couldn't make it. I know all those things. Thank you very much.
Well, Ice-T, just check out his show. All right. We haven't heard from a few people.
Glastonbury is a great show that I'd love to go to, but am I really going to, find $2,000 to get on a plane to go to the UK and find a hotel? No. But if I can catch, Deadmau5 or somebody, catch their set from my home for $100, heck yeah, all day long.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Chris, good news for you. Andrew Bocelli is coming to town. So you don't have to worry about it. There you go. That'll be fine for you. You won't have to worry. Well, actually, older people go to the bathroom a little bit more, especially older men, but that's another subject for another show.
Carol Burnett's coming to town too.
Oh, wow. So we haven't heard from Rod. We haven't heard from Rod Bauer. We haven't heard from we haven't heard from Tim. So and we haven't heard from Wayne. Come on, we got to get you guys involved in this somehow. So hey, Wayne,
Jan, forgive me, just a second. It's the first time, despite being invited every time, because of your personal invitation, that I've been able to participate.
I love it.
It's after 7 p.m. my local time. My lady wife and I are in the middle of moving house. I'm running.
I thought it was past your bedtime, but it's okay. Did I tell you Andrew Bocelli's coming to your town? That's it.
It's been a real pleasure. Some of you guys I haven't seen for a long time. This has been great. Thank you, Jan. Invite me again.
You're invited every week. You're now a regular.
Be safe. Have a great evening, and onwards and upwards. It only gets better. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Andrew.
Stay safe.
So anyway, he's going to miss the story about Watkins Glen. Unbelievable. He's going to regret it in the morning. I tell you that. So Rod, you want to say something?
It's good. I mean, I got my second round PPP. That's helping a lot because all within the same 24 hours, my 15 show summer is now down to 9. So it's kind of I'm getting shows. We lost 3 more nationals that are all bumping to next year. So the big hairband show is still happening. I actually honestly didn't mind if that one would get bumped, but that one's going on. So I got to really start cracking down on that. That's 10 bands over 2 days. And it's a lot of logistic stuff that I got to work out. But my favorite festival is about 30, 35 bands over 3 days. And it's all jam bands. I set up the full stage, full light show. I've been doing it for 8 years and it's back in this woods. It's a great time. The owner of the property is an older guy and he's freaking out. They were going to do a small version. We weren't even going to bring the stage. We're going to do a smaller thing. The dad that owns the land is freaking out that he's too afraid someone's going to get sick and everybody's going to spread. So the dad's bailing on him and now they're looking for another venue. I tried to bring them to my national venue, but we have a 10 o'clock curfew. I mean, these kids go till 3 a.m. So I don't know what's going to happen. That's the only one I'm bummed about, really. That was my favorite festival to mix. The jam bands are always amazing. And it's like my getaway. I camp out for 3 days, and that's the one I'm really bummed about. That's really up in the air. So I don't know. It changes every day. You know, every day it's just, we don't know what's happening. There's another local venue, Penn's Peak, just announced they bumped all their summer. Everything got moved to fall now. All their August dates are now November. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
Well, you know, who does? Wayne, what do you got to say?
Well, maybe I'm going to work in July. We'll see what happens. I think there's some, maybe some graduations, maybe some car show stuff if they get off the ground. Because I hear New York is, last I checked, I haven't looked at it that closely, but I think New York is going to go in July maybe, or October. I can't remember which one. So New York Auto Show. LA is supposed to do their auto show in November. So we'll see what happens, and then a few other things, but I'm expecting a relatively light year.
Is your phone ringing more? I think, you know, that's a question I would like to ask everybody. Is your phone ringing more? Because my phone now is really starting to ring an awful lot with people asking a lot of questions, not a lot of buying, but a lot of questions. And I'm curious to know how other people's phones are doing. Are your phones ringing?
Mine's not ringing, but you know, I've got the
put out your number. Give us your number. We'll call. Really.
Yeah, I've got about a half a dozen clients that I really want to go back to work with. Some of the other stuff I'm just not going to bother with at my age. I just, you know, I'm not going to get back on 200 days a year treadmill. It's just not worth it.
Well, there's some things that we've learned over this COVID thing, you know. Chaz, is your phone ringing?
Oh, not at all.
What's your number? Didn't I call you today? I called you today. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and I had an inquiry for one corporate job in June in Orlando. It was a bid, and I think it was really just a check bid. Old producer friend of mine. So I do have a few clients, and I know that there's some shows. I'm really looking first quarter of 2022. That's when I think it's really going to happen. There are some corporate shows I know that are going on now. But these corporations, they have to be careful. But the demand, it's pent up. They want to do these events. They really want to do these events. They've learned that the Zoom thing is really pretty lackluster. And it just takes away the spark from their sales force, their administrative force that happens with personal, physical interactivity away from the office. So,
well, that's what conventions, you know, like when you go to a convention, it's not necessarily that you're going to learn a lot about something. Like, for example, when I find that doctors or lawyers are going out on a convention, basically they're going on a convention to, you know, to see the sights of the city, and they bring their wife along, and it's a great tax write-off. So, you know, it's about mingling with people. It's about seeing the people. For me, trade shows are all about seeing people I haven't seen for a long time, or that I've talked to on the phone, and getting as much swag as I can. That's what trade shows are about, you know. Tim, what's going on in your life? Is the phone ringing?
Nope.
That's because you're not giving me your phone number. I promise I'll call you.
The hell,
at
you've
4
got
in the
my
morning.
phone number. I had to get you blocked.
What about Tim Sluter? Well, I mean, Steve Sluter. What's happening down there?
I love that you asked him something just as he ate some food.
All right, well, listen, I got my watch right here. I'll just time this. All right, now I know how to fill time.
We got a few things coming in slow, but you know, I just spend most of my time. I go fishing, man. I'm not in the office as much right now. Right, I just go and take a fish break every week.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
I did want to say one more thing. This came up on 2 different shows coming up. I just wonder if anybody else is doing this. The guys that do want to play, we had one band lined up we've done before. It's like a cover band, but they do a really nice show, and they're all self-contained. They do a Queen show, and they also with Mark Martel, and they also do a Pink Floyd show that was amazing. They're presenting Tom, the promoter, just coming in and do a ticket split and not worrying about money, cost. We're just going to do a straight ticket split. I've also had 3 other tribute bands presented to me to ask to do the same thing. Look, we just want to play. We'll do a straight ticket split. Nobody's worried about getting paid anything. We just want to play. So I just wonder if anybody else is seeing that of, they're kind of at a semi-national level, but they're willing just to come in and do a ticket split and not worry about a flat cost.
I've been approached a couple of times on that already. So I think that's where we're going to restart here, is splitting the box.
Yeah.
Well, and I've my version of it is I've had a couple of potential exhibitors come to me and say, hey, we don't have marketing money to do a trade show booth. How about a credit memo greater than what I'm selling the booth for that they want? So I think that's kind of my version of it. And depending on who the manufacturer is, I might be interested. But yeah, so there's some of that. There's definitely some wheeling dealing going out there just because people want to get out.
It almost sounds like the Popeye Wimpy hamburger on Tuesday aspect of the business. I'd gladly pay you on Tuesday for a hamburger today, but in Steve's case, a fish burger today. But I don't know what went on in the South over there. Let's see. Who else? Is there anybody here that hasn't shared that would like to share right now about something? Anybody going once?
Well, basically,
I'm just curious about how many people are going to be hospitalized after Bonnaroo. All those young people that are not vaccinated in the South.
None of them. They're all going to be on X and they're going to feel fine.
Well, speaking of Matt Gaetz, sorry about that. As I was saying, what was I saying anyway? Oh yeah, Kenny, you were going to go to that motorcycle festival up in Colorado. What happened with that? Sturgis. And then wasn't there another one down in Orlando, a big motorcycle festival, Elaine, down in Orlando that people went to?
Daytona, I think is what you're referring to, but somewhere in Florida. But I'm not going to go to Sturgis this year, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Eric, I have a question for you. You did a site survey last week, so you couldn't make the show. Is your phone ringing? Did you get the job, or was that just a looky-loo thing to get you out of the house so they could burglarize you?
It was an actual job, if you could believe that. It was a huge projection mapping project by the Vessel at Hudson Yards. Anybody who doesn't know what the Vessel is, look it up. It's one of New York City's hottest Instagram moments. And it all went fine. It was simply just an experiential event. And they were taping it for some purpose I'm unaware of. But it's certainly good to get out and see some guys out there working. Not the most fun place to work, but at this point, who cares? But in terms of phone ringing, it's been so ridiculous in terms of the solicitors, computer services, janitorial services, COVID cleaning, shipping. We just changed our phone answering to be all remote. And we leave a message that due to the high number of scam and spam phone callers, we take your message, it's transcribed, and it's emailed to us. We have it in 30 seconds. And what we don't say is, if you're a fucking idiot, we'll call you back.
Yeah. I mean, for those people who are getting a lot of calls on their cell phone or text messages, there is a company called RoboKiller. And I have to tell you, I use it and I swear by it. I could not imagine not having that service on my cell phone right now.
I can vouch for Jan swearing by it, because I think it was 4 lunches in a row. All we heard about was RoboKiller. RoboKiller, Bank of America. RoboKiller, Bank of America.
Yeah, well, because of COVID, I'm not dating at all. Now, if I was dating, you'd hear all those experiences about my
your
dating.
stories used to be so
it's much better. Believe me, it's much better you hear about RoboKiller and whatever else I'm talking about than my dating life. Are you kidding? But speaking of which, and this is a tip I'd like to share with you. There is an organization called Behind the Scenes, and it is a charity, and the link is behindthescenescharity.org. And what they do is they provide mental and health first aid for people. So if you've got COVID, or if you've been injured on the job and you're in our industry, or you're thinking about committing suicide, they have a service that will help anyone in our industry that is in medical need of any shape or form. And they also are training people now to learn symptoms of people who might be suicidal and how to assist them in getting them back into a place where they're not dangerous to themselves. So I thought I would share that, So that is my tip of the day here. I have a lot of tips today, by the way. Speaking of robocalls, the FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center released its annual Internet Crime Report, and it saw a 20% increase in the value of cybercrime losses that were reported, with the business email compromise being the most damaging method of attack, causing Americans $1.8 billion in losses. So beware when you get an email, don't click on a link, unless you know for sure that it's the person and you're expecting the link. I highly recommend, what I do is if I get an attachment or a link that I'm not sure of, what I do is I send back an email saying, hey, to protect my computer, I did not click on the link. I did not open the attachment. I need to make sure that it's you. So before you resend it, please give me a call so that I know it's from you. Because you can't just send it back to them saying, hey, did you really send me this? Because if you're sending it back to the spammer that wants to break into your computer, he's going to write you back, yeah, it's me, So make sure you do that to protect yourself. That's something that I highly recommend. Anyway, let's open up the floor a little bit and let's see if anybody has anything at all that's on their mind that they want to say. Otherwise, I'll tell my story about Watkins Glen.
Okay, everybody.
Watkins Glen. So Chaz Gerber. That name sounds so familiar. Where have we worked together before?
I don't know. I'm from.
Where are you based?
Now I'm in Palm Beach County, Florida, but I lived in Atlanta for a little while. But I'm from Philadelphia. I was part of the Philly scene.
Wow.
It's part of the whole Harold Blumberg.
Harold Blumberg was
Mark Hogue, Dan Casting.
We grew up.
He mixed for Bruce. You remember him, Ken?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the Born to Run tour. That little thing. Yeah.
Didn't you work for Jersey Joe, Ken?
Way back in the old days, yeah.
That's when I met Ken.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
So were you from New Jersey then, Chaz?
No, Philadelphia.
Oh, Philly. So neighbors, huh?
Yeah.
And so, did you do corporate gigs or music things?
No, music. I started out doing music gigs.
He did the Born to Run tour. He doesn't tell anybody.
I was a roadie for a while and kind of worked my way up. I worked at the Electric Factory Club in Philadelphia and mixed a lot of bands. I actually mixed Elton John's. I'm old as.
Do you have anything to do with Jay Giles?
I did. I toured with Dave Hadler and Activated Air, and I was just like a system tech.
That's who I met you through, David Hadler.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's who I was working for Watkins Glen. We had a couple of the delay towers, and then Clare Brothers had some, and then the Dead had their wall
of sound. By the way, did you see the model that some guy made of the wall of sound recently? Some freak made a 1/6 scale model of the wall of sound.
Ken Newman.
Crazy, right?
Other people's topics. Ken. Anyway, that's posted in the chat, folks. There's a guy who made a 1/6 scale of the wall of sound, and it's actually a working model, although by his own admission, it sounds horrible because it's mostly cell phone speakers.
Right.
But it was simply a trial run because he's going to make a 1/2 scale version.
Wow.
But actually, in his mind, he thinks he can make it sound pretty darn good.
Wow,
I have one speaker from the wall of sound.
It sounds like something to me from Spinal Tap, when
Well, I heard that.
So my part of the story at Watkins Glen real quick is Dave Hadler told me when I offered to help because I worked at Atlas Sound, he said the girls don't do sound. So when I heard Renaissance play at the Capitol Theater and it sounded just like the album, little did I know it was Chaz mixing at the time.
Okay, wait. So
I said to Dinky Dawson, I says, when I asked him, I says, how come some bands sound just like the album and some sound like crap? He says, go to the Institute of Audio Research. And I said to him, I thought girls don't do sound. And he said, just because somebody tells you something doesn't mean it's so. But it was so.
So Chaz, did you work for Renaissance for long? I mean, if so, what years?
I think that was like 71 through 70. When did I work with Bruce? Because 71 or 72. It was Ashes Are Burning was the first album. And then I went with Bruce in 75. So it was
74 you were.
I was thinking about later Renaissance when John Shearer managed them, and I was in that same gang there. So I was thinking, oh, maybe that's where I met you.
Yeah, it wasn't John Shearer. It was Miles Copeland that managed Renaissance. Yeah. He managed Wishbone Ash, Climax Blues Band, and Renaissance.
Wow. Great names from the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So do you remember what year Watkins Glen was, Chess?
I don't remember.
73. July
73.
Yeah.
So basically, I had just gotten out of the National Guard basic training. I was trained to be a medic, and I did not go to Woodstock, and I wanted to go to that. I really wanted to go to Woodstock really bad, but I didn't go. And the next big festival that came up, even though it wasn't as big as Woodstock, was Watkins Glen, upstate New York. So I had just gotten out of the military, and I drove up, bought a ticket, and I was all the way in the back when this guy right next to me started having a seizure. And of course, I had just been trained as a medic in the military. And so I immediately sprang into action. I got this guy evacuated. And when the helicopter came to get him evacuated and I kept him alive, they said, you got to go in a helicopter with him. Now, today, of course, that would never have happened.
No.
But I got into the helicopter and they brought me backstage somehow. I don't remember exactly because it's a long time ago, but Elaine was telling me she remembered that story.
Yeah, I remember that. The doctor on site there was a guy named Sid Schnall, I think, who was backstage.
Dr. Feelgood?
He was there for the...
Ken, do you remember when I met you?
Not at all. I'm sorry. No.
Jersey Joe showed me how to solder the right way.
Kidding.
Back in Menlo Park. Was it Menlo Park? Yeah.
How about New Brunswick? Or no, Highland Park. Highland Park. That's
Highland Park. 218 Cleveland Avenue, I think it was.
Wow. Come on, Eric. What the hell? Wow. That's exactly where it was. 218 Cleveland Avenue.
What was the thing he always used to say? Goddamn.
To me.
Yeah, goddamn.
I think I met you at the Straubs concert at the Beacon.
Wow, that's amazing. I sure don't remember.
So next thing you guys will tell me that Bruce Springsteen borrowed $5 and he still hasn't paid it back, right? Is that what you're saying?
I remember there was a company called Newfound Sound, I think. The friends of ours that were from Newfoundland, New Jersey or something. So they called their company Newfound Sound, and they did sound for Bruce at, I want to say Princeton or someplace like that. Some, college, like a nightclub, a coffee shop kind of thing.
That must have been.
Anyway, I remember leaving the gig and pulling up to the traffic light in my 65 Chevy, and I looked to my right, and there was a 64 Volkswagen with Bruce as the passenger.
Well, anyway, Watkins Glen was pretty amazing in its own right. That wall,
and that was a Bill Graham production.
Yeah.
So Mike Callahan was the sound guy for the Allman Brothers, which played with the Dead there, right?
Yeah.
I was friends with Mike. Mandrill played with them, and we became buddies. And he used to tell me the story for Watkins Glen, how he was the one who was sent out to get the bag of cocaine on the helicopter. And he came back with almost a pound of cocaine for the entire festival.
Jeez.
And it's
That
like,
was when
okay, Mike.
Well, you know,
Owsley
when
was
when you
running
buy
around
in
giving
bulk,
acid to everybody.
I was in that helicopter and I didn't see the cocaine. I can't believe it, man.
when it's just that old adage, when you buy in bulk, you save.
I mean, to me, I know we're going through a lot of counterculture, a lot of cancel culture. But to me, cancel culture was doing cocaine and then having a Quaalude. That was cancel culture at its finest.
My God.
So Chaz, I looked it up on my database.
Yeah.
And Andrew worked with war 3 different times.
Uh-huh.
One and all in 74.
Uh-huh.
So one in Columbus, Georgia,
Yeah.
one in Kent, Ohio, and one in Landover, Maryland at the Capitol Center.
Yeah. Oh.
Does they ring a bell at all?
At the Capitol Center. No.
Yeah, in Landover, outside of DC.
I mean, that would have been where I would have.
Yeah, Rare Earth, War, and Mandrel played together.
That must have been it.
That's probably it.
Well, folks, if you've made it this far into the show, you know you're a diehard fan of this show. So I would tell you this, we're going to stick around, but I'm going to say goodbye to Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And just remember, if you like the show, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like the show, still give it a thumbs up. And just remember, you make it happen. Be safe, stay healthy. We're going to be here again next week. It'll be our 48th episode. And I want to thank you all for coming. Remember to share it with your friends, and you make it happen. So have a great week. Until next week, this is Jan Landy saying.
So who am I, David Downer? I say something and you sign off?
That's it. And with that, we are.